Hello everyone, it's Lindsay, and this must just be the week of printables. It's all about printables on my channel this week. Today I'm playing with some printables from Illustrated Faith. This set was released, I believe, earlier in the month, but as you know, my life's been a little bit crazy the last couple weeks. I'm just now getting a chance to sit down and play with it. And so this is the Very Sweet Words set created by Abigail Clone. I will have it linked down below for you guys. It was kind of intended for right before Valentine's Day, but hey, it's never a bad time to document just your thankfulness for God's love for us and to acknowledge God's love for us. And so that is what I'm going to be doing today. This particular set of printables does come with a short devotional for you guys written by Abigail. If you didn't realize this, Abigail is actually, I believe she's a senior in high school. So she is young, and I just love getting to support those that are young and just kind of coming up in their faith. I think that's super, super exciting, and what an encouragement to see somebody just so on fire for God. I'm just so proud of her. It's so neat to watch her. So I'm excited to play with her set today. I did grab the set that comes with all of the ephemera and the devotional, and then I also picked up the set of papers. So I've already gone ahead and cut everything out, but there is a set of patterned papers as well, so I'll link that down below. I went ahead and sized it so that it was, I believe, 4 to a sheet rather than 1 per sheet, and I printed front and back. So there are, I believe, 6 designs. Like I said, shrunk them down to 1/4 of the size and front and back. So I like to use these to die cut letters out of, to die cut tags or shapes, use these to create journaling cards, even just using them as, layering elements behind things to add a pop of color. So don't skip out on the patterns. And oftentimes, yes, they are, color matched to a specific set, but these can be used to mix and match with other projects as well. And then that way you're not having to store a bunch of pattern paper if you have limited space. So I have here everything already pre-cut out. There are sets like tags. There's all kinds of different little elements. There's also a set of alphas. And so I think I scaled it down to 2 to a page rather than 1 to a page. So they are a little bit smaller, and I cut out like several sets of them so I'd have plenty of each letter. And you could also print these on sticker paper and then have, built-in stickers. I've just done mine on cardstock, and we'll run them through a Xyron sticker maker to turn mine into a sticker. So I'll have that link down below for you as well. So this is going to be pretty quick and easy to put together. There are several Bible verses. She's got Romans 8:38 through 39 on the devotional content. I have journaled this area of Romans in like every journaling Bible that I have, but luckily she also lists several other Bible verses that go along with the devotional content. So I am going to be journaling in Psalm 119 verse 103. It says, "How sweet your word is to my taste, sweeter than honey in my mouth." And I have just been in the Word more than I ever have been, which seems kind of crazy because beforehand I was Bible journaling every day, but I've been doing lots of in-depth study this year so far. And so I just want to create a fun little page just acknowledging, just how sweet God's words are. I may not do too much prayer journaling or anything like that. I just kind of want to just document it and just reflect on the devotional content. It is sized that you could fit it in a traveler's notebook insert. You could even, punch holes and insert it into the Bible, which I may do that for this entry just so I have it, right next to what I'm documenting. But I've pulled out a few different things. I've got some acrylic paints. We're going to do a little bit of mixed media. So I've got some acrylic paints. I have a Neocolor 2 crayon. I just kind of went through and tried to find things in the colors that matched this particular kit. I also have some ink. Because I'm doing a little bit more mixed media and I'm going to be stamping over the top of acrylic paint, I did grab a dye ink. So dye inks, for a real quick little ink lesson here, dye inks typically bleed through Bible pages, so you don't want to reach for dye inks all the time, but if I'm stamping over the top of acrylic paints or things like that, I am going to reach for a dye ink because it's permanent. So a pigment ink like the Dewdrop inks, let me see, I have one right here. these ones. These are pigment ink. So this is going to sit on the top of the paint, and it's going to take a long time to dry, if it ever dries. Distress inks, for example, are a good example of one that these will never really dry on top of non-slick surfaces. So if I'm going to be stamping on paint, I'm going to reach for either archival ink or a dye ink, and just be mindful that if you stamp off on naked paper, it is going to bleed through. So you may want to prep your page or do something different. I don't mind bleed through. I just cover it up at a later time. So there's a little ink lesson real quick. I've also pulled out a couple stamp sets. I've got the Typed Alpha. I'm not sure if this one's still in the Illustrated Faith shop. If it is available, I will link it down below. And I've also pulled the Grace and Gratitude Kit 3. This is an older stamp set, but I wanted to use these little hexy shapes just to create some texture in the background. So you can just pull out, you know, whatever texture stamps that you might have. That's what I'm going to be using to create my background. So let me go ahead and put you guys on fast forward, and we'll put this entry together. Okay, so we are going to get messy. So I have a Bible mat underneath my page. I also have a non-stick craft mat over to the side there, just to catch any messes that I'm making along the way. So I'm starting out by using the card swiping technique. So I'm just putting a little bit of acrylic paint on the edge of this card. You could use a gift card, credit card, something like that, and then just dragging it across the page. I was going to do the same thing with this blue paint, but apparently this blue paint is way too old, so I switched it for something else and decided to use this little media tool that I picked up after watching Hello Jilski use it in one of her recent videos. This is just a fun silicone tipped tool, and this is perfect because at this point when I'm filming this, I still didn't have water in my house, so I didn't have to wash any paintbrushes. I couldn't have anyways. I can just wipe it off with a baby wipe and it's good to go. And then I'm going in with a Neocolor 2 crayon and then just making some scribbly lines. Really, for a background like this, it's just messy marks. I don't really have an idea in mind of what I'm going to do. I'm just grabbing a color and then just deciding how I want to put it down on the page and kind of even things out. And it's just, you just kind of have to play with it. It's a lot of fun. So to knock this back into the background, because again, this is all going to be in the background, I'm using this brayer technique. This has really been a favorite technique of mine recently for mixed media stuff like this. It's just taking some white paint and using the brayer to apply that paint over the top. And you can see it's really muting the paint and the Neocolor 2 crayon and just making it all just a soft wash in the background, and that's what I wanted. So in between each layer, I am making sure everything's dry, so I'm drying things off camera. And now I'm going to go in and do some stamping. So I picked these shapes because they're kind of similar to the shape of the strawberries that are in the printables. That's what led me to use these shapes, but you can use whatever shape stamp that you have. I did like that this came with solids and outlines, and so I stamped the solids in the yellow, and then I'm going back in with the outlines using some archival ink because I am stamping over acrylic paint. And at the end, I'll show you the bleed through. So there was a little bit of bleed through in areas where there wasn't any acrylic paint. So when you apply the acrylic paint with the brayer, it is a little bit patchy, which is what I wanted. So there are some areas where the ink bleeds through. But if you were going to do this and bleed through bothers you, you could definitely prep the page with gesso beforehand and then do all these same techniques would work just fine. As I'm going in to stamp the outline, you'll see I'm inking up the stamp and then stamping it off on that craft sheet and then taking it to the page. That's because I want it to, again, be light. I want it in the backgrounds and I want it imperfect and messy. I don't want perfect impressions. So I'm just stamping off any excess ink before I take it to the page, and then again adding a layer of that white paint to knock back the background. And I love how that came out. A lot of this gets covered up by all the printables, but that's okay. I just want that as my foundation. And I find that when I'm doing those background techniques like that, it gives me so much time to sit there and really just meditate on the scripture that I'm working on. And just sometimes it's prayer time for me. Sometimes I'm just sitting there praying over people or situations or just that particular scripture as I'm doing that background. So yes, it does take a little bit of time, but I really enjoy that time. Now I'm going to start assembling all of the printable pieces. Now you'll notice this tag and that little scallop bubble piece. Off camera, I had gone ahead and added some stitching detail to it, and I also popped up that scallop piece on some foam adhesive. So by just doing things like that, adding stitching detail, adding pen, adding a little bit of fabric, just those different little touches make a printable look less like a printable. Now, it's not a bad thing to look like a printable, but I want it to look like ephemera that you would buy in the store. And so by adding different texture, adding different elements to it, really just takes the printables to the next level and just makes them, dresses them up. It's like adding accessories. So I'm doing that with those little hearts. I'm adding some pen detail. I'm going to do some black stamping in a little bit here, and so I want to make sure I have black elements in other places on my page. So just adding those little dot details to those hearts. I did add a doily behind the tag. And again, I didn't leave myself any journaling room because I didn't really have a whole lot of journaling I wanted to do on this scripture. But you could create a pocket for that tag and then do your journaling on that tag. So you could definitely adapt this to work for you if you wanted to do some journaling on the page as well. So I'm using those alphabets that I had cut out in cardstock, and I'm just running them through the Xyron sticker maker as well as some of the other smaller little pieces I had left, and I'm turning these into stickers, and that just makes it quick and easy to stick them down on the page. And so I can just pull this top sheet off, and then now I have a sheet of stickers, so I can just stick them right down. Now, this printable set did have a sentiment, like title phrase that said berry sweet, and I wanted to add in words to it, so it would say berry sweet words. And so rather than use the piece in the printable, I decided to just go ahead and kind of recreate it using the alphabets and some stamps that I had. But you could also use, you know, the element that's in the printables. So here I'm going to pull out that stamp set that mimics the font that's used in the printable set. You'll see I'm loading up the word sweet, and there aren't two E's. I just used the letter C as a placeholder for the second E because they're similar in size and shape. And so that's kind of a trick I do when I'm stamping words and don't have multiples of a letter. And then I can just come in and pop that E, and it fits in perfect because I had that placeholder in there. You'll notice when I stick these down that I go in with a powder tool. You could also use baby powder over the top of this. Sometimes the Xyron sticker maker leaves adhesive kind of sticking outside of the element, and I don't want my pages to stick together. So by rubbing the powder over the top diminishes that stickiness so my pages don't stick. And I'm also going in and outlining the words with a pen just so that they pop on the page a little bit more and tie in the black stamping that I've done. And I just love those. Alphas are super, super fun and whimsical. They are much larger than this if you print them at the regular size. Like I said, I think I printed them 2 to a page, so, or maybe even 4 to a page. I think it was 2 to a page, so they're a little bit smaller. Use the date stamp from Illustrated Faith, and then I'm going in with some of this highlighter washi to highlight the verse. And that's pretty much going to be it for the entry today. I had a lot of fun mixing and matching mixed media with those printables. They are super, super cute. Thank you, Abigail, for creating those. They're super fun. You can see a little bit of bleed through on the back from that yellow stamping, but not anything I can't cover up. So if you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave those down below. Check out the description box for links to everything that I used today. They release new printables in the shop every week, so there's a little something for everybody. So go check it out. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed. And until next time, thank you so much. Bye-bye.